Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Topsy-turvy. I started dating a girl about 7 years ago. When we met, she was getting up on her feet and trying to find her way in life. I let my imagination take over and started envisioning her potential and what kind of life we would have together. I had never had the feeling of disarmed, punch-drunk love that I had for her, and that probably clouded my judgment. Throughout our time together, she would reach out and ask for money for things. Repairing a car, paying a bill, and so on. We were getting closer the longer we dated, and I would always help her, assuming that I was making an investment in both of our lives by helping her through a period of instability. In all, I probably gave her about $15,000. After about 4 years of this, I finally popped the question. She accepted and we were married after a brief engagement. About 6 months into our marriage, she told me she had been having car trouble and needed about $2,000 for the repair. This struck me as a bit odd. By that time, I was more than familiar with her vehicle and knew her explanation for what the issue was didn't really make sense. One evening after she went to sleep, I went and had a look at the part of the car she had said was faulty. No issue. This set off alarms. I grabbed her phone and, on a hunch, typed in the amount she had asked for and it returned a text message with a guy she had previously dated. Apparently he had reached out and asked for help repairing his car, and lo and behold, he had asked for the same amount she had requested from me. My stomach turned as the thought entered my mind that maybe I had subsidized other of this guy's expenses across the time I had dated my wife. As I read through the messages further, I realized that this guy was a Lester Diamond to my Sam Rothstein, and I had been played like a fool. Look up that reference if you're not familiar. I had spent my entire relationship as a bank account to them. I thought about this for a few weeks and tried to figure out what to do next. These sacrifices were not insignificant to me. I had been working as a surgical resident for much of our courtship, making very little money and working long hours to form a strong, solid foundation for our future. This was devastating, and I realized it. I couldn't reconcile the situation. Once I had cooled down, I waited for an evening. My wife went to bed early and I got into her phone. I caught up on the most recent messages she and her paramour had sent one another. Then I initiated a conversation with him. I posed as her and told him she had been drinking. She's a recovering alcoholic, and that she needed to get some things off her chest. I didn't go overboard, but I did send messages to the effect that she was not over him and that her affections had grown since marrying me. I all but teed him up to move in for a relationship with her. I then abruptly ended the chat and asked that we not talk about the conversation again in order to avoid furthering her relapse, but that we both keep in mind what we had spoken about and see if we could make a life together work. I then deleted the text from her phone and hoped the two would proceed forward together, and they did. I kept an eye on the text for the next few months and progressively saw things heat up between them until it looked like she was committed to leaving me. We didn't have many assets together at the time, as I was still finishing a surgical residency, so I knew the divorce would be quick and painless, and that we would go our separate ways and she would start a new life with a guy whose underachievements I had been funding. So I filed for a divorce and had her served paper. I was generous with the $10,000 in assets between us in order to make the split as quick as possible. I went on our ways to begin life anew. And you think that was the end of the story, right? Oh no, friend. You see, Mama did not raise a cock. In our state, not only are assets separated upon marital severance, but so are debts. A medical school is so expensive. Really expensive. $250,000 expensive. To the which ended up with a parting gift of about $125,000 of my student loans. And guess who she shotgun married 2 months after our divorce? Fortunately for her, she'll only have to pay half of that amount, because if history does indeed repeat itself, he'll be paying the other half once their marriage ends as well. It was all I could do to not send him a piggy bank as a wedding gift. Best $15K I ever spent. Next story. Government entitled man and his Karen wife steal my parking space. Call the cops on me, costing me money, but karma strikes back. I have such luck to live in a small 4-level apartment building with 26 flats in it, and half that many parking spots. So not everyone gets a parking spot in one apartment. A childless couple somehow took 2 spaces. With cherry on top that our building is just across a restaurant with mere 45 parking spots for 3 times that many tables. So I came home one evening to see a car with a license plate of a city 100 kilometers far for us away in my spot. Unknown to me, so it wasn't a neighbor that renewed his ride and didn't yet transfer it. Annoyed by this, cause it became really common lately, I see that the parking lot is full, and because my spot is at the end, it has a triangle half spot just beside it and a wall that was dedicated for a motorcycle, but unused since I sold my Transalp. I'm a Honda fan with cars too. That was a year ago. So I parked my car 90 degrees behind him, all the way to the wall, so that I wouldn't annoy other neighbors trying to get out nor leave my car on the street, which my wife did 6 years ago, and her car was stolen. But that didn't clear the imposing car completely, so to get out he/she needed to call me or be very precise in squeezing between the back of my car and the neighbor's car. He or she chose neither. Maybe 20 to 30 minutes after, someone rings my bell, and it's my next door/parking spot neighbor, telling me to get down fast cause the owner of the car is calling the cops. After he told him he'd help him steer through or call me to move my car first. So clearly a jerk or witch move, to which I reacted promptly and got out in just a few minutes. Alas, few minutes too late cause the cops were already there and writing me a ticket on my building's private parking lot for my parking spot. It got out of hand pretty quickly cause I'm short-tempered and the cop just seemed to have something against me. Of course I wasn't that naive to not know that I made it hard for him/her to get out, but I tried telling the cops that they were in a private parking space of a private apartment building, to which he just said, "Your ticket is almost done, sign below." I was having none of it, so I asked for him to, if he already gave me a ticket, 43 euros approximately if you pay promptly, it's half that, to issue one to the offending vehicle for improper parking. To which the jerk cop had the nerve to say, "Prove that it's yours." Now my wife owns our apartment, so there is no lease on it that says specifically parking place number 7 right up to the wall is assigned to the number 18 flat. But we made all the signs necessary for a parking lot and put a no parking signs on them, of course excluding residents. And had that middle thingy, direct translation would be a frog, cause when you push it up it raises and becomes a triangle barrier over which you can't park. But mine was broken and couldn't be raised. This was very fishy, but I couldn't do anything about it, cause in the eyes of the law, I did partially obstruct his vehicle, which is a no-no, and had no proof that spot belonged to me. But this is a time where my more easygoing and calmer spouse noticed that the cop smells of booze. Now, I don't drink alcohol, so I'd have, if I wasn't pissed, smelled it too before, but didn't. When she pointed that out, I realized the heavy beer smelling coming from him A cop on duty, even bigger no-no. We tried warning him that we will call the regular police. Over here there are many types of police. Traffic, criminals under Maria, aka special militarized police and so on. In the hope they would let this go. I'd moved for him to get out and take my spot, but to no avail. He claimed we're imagining the smell. Asked me to sign, and if I had any objections, I can go to a judge and complain. And they need to leave. I of course wanted proof for said judge cause I wanted to confront him and wanted to call the criminal police on them for being intoxicated, on the job, and while driving to my place and back. So I pulled out my phone to take a picture, to which he stepped in front of me and tried to ban me from doing so. You can't take pictures of his car. What the hell, man? Who is he if you're giving me so much crap and act so mean? All this commotion drew my neighbors out. They all explained that we alone can park there, the restaurant can suck it along with its guests. More politely than that. When my wife came down, she took our daughters with 2-year-old and 7-year-old. The older one thought they came to arrest me. Police has a scary reputation in these parts. Communist era leftover. So when she started crying, the toddler also did because her sister was crying. A mess which I wanted to end. So I had to think fast. A light bulb lit and I told him, I won't take pictures of him or her or their car. I need a picture of my spot occupied illegally for the judge. Nailed you, jerk. To which he thought about a second and moved. So I did use my phone to take 2 images. And karma arrives finally. Just as I took my images using flash, right behind their car, in a dark parking lot, stopped and sat down on the stairs, the Karen that already started the car while I was taking pictures. Obviously annoyed by the fuss me and my neighbors made, tried to speed away in reverse from our parking lot. And guess what happens if you do that in a parking lot? With parallel parking spots and just 5 meters between them a large Audi estate car. You hit a car parked across. Now I got up and just calmly said, now you can issue them a ticket and make a report. And guess what the cop had to say to that? You think he took out his ticket book again? Nope. Someone get the owner of the car so they can work it out. So we can leave. What the hell, man? Guess what the Karen said hearing that? He was blinding me with some strong lights while I unparked. He's to blame. He's to blame? What the hell, witch? I took 2 images before you even had it in gear. Got back to the stairs and sat down. Of course, my annoyed neighbors did what the cop said. It was getting late and guess what else? The neighbor whose Audi she hit was a huge jerk to everyone. Didn't speak with 90% of the building, so we all couldn't wait for him to get out. I took my ticket, paid the obligatory half, took my crying kids upstairs, got out on our bedroom terrace, and yelled to those entitled jerks a phrase similar to, "What goes around comes around." I said that with a smile and left them to work it out. In the end, they paid almost 3 times more for a jerk's bumper than I did, which I learned days later when a neighbor told me that, along with, you know the judge that was here for a celebration in a restaurant and took your spot? Ah, so that's why the cop acted like a douche. Oh well, he got to enjoy a 3-month suspension for drinking on the job for his effort. Next story. HOA fence paint compliance. My HOA was fairly reasonable as HOAs go. At least until we got a new management company owned and operated by a guy we shall call DN, short for douche nozzle. My first run-in with DN was when I asked him why he was sending photographers around at the crack dawn on Fridays, when our recycle day is Thursday night. They would take pictures of cans still out from the last night's trash, and try to fine you for it without giving you until after sunrise to bring it up. This isn't just me. A bunch of neighbors in our neighborhood social media groups complained about the camp police dumb landscaping write-ups, the usual. So a couple of springs ago I got a notice letter that my side of the wood fence adjoining a neighbor's yard was out of compliance and needed staining. Friends, it needed staining because there are 3 20-feet tall trees in front of it and the branches rub on it all day. You never see the fence once the trees are leaved out, and the only reason you could see them this particular spring is that we had a late freeze. So Team DN sends me a complaint letter. I officially disputed with photos of my neighbor's fences in similar condition, albeit was at the tree rubbing, arguing that I was being singled out. I am not a monster. I got the neighbor's permission first. DN personally comes out on appeal to visually inspect my fence, rejects my dispute and tells me that he cannot give me specifics of letters to neighbors regarding their fences due to privacy, but that it's being handled. I then scoured our HOA documents and formulated my malicious complaints. Here is where DN messed up. Our HOA has rigorous standards for external paint and trim, front yard trees and landscaping. However, the only guidance they provide on fences is that the color must be visually appealing, which is not defined and therefore totally subjective and difficult to enforce. And B, coordinate with adjacent fences. No specific colors are given, nor is there a maximum amount of allowable colors per fence. However, the whole neighborhood's 100 plus homes has deep red or brown stains on wood fences, and all metal fences are black. I once again disputed the notice to DN, citing our HOA documents, arguing that since all adjacent fences were weathered and the stain was worn, that I had nothing to match to. I sent this on a Thursday night, hoping that he would A. see it on Friday, B. be headed out for his weekend, and C. not really think through a response before hitting send. And oh boy, the universe provided. He sent a quick flippant reply Friday stating that the neighbors would have to coordinate with me. I needed to have the issue remediated within a couple weeks to avoid a fine, per our HOA covenant. Sir, yes sir. I told him I was proceeding immediately and would be sure to comply with our governing documents. So that very day, I called 3 to 4 sting companies. A couple came out over that weekend to give me quotes. This was while things were still slow from COVID. After running the numbers, wife and I realized that painting every picket a different color on 200 feet of fence would be cost prohibitive. So we settled on the grossest shade of bright blue we could find. Smurfalicious. After the work was done early the next week, I took a picture of my masterpiece and sent it to DN with a note that said, I trust this resolves our issue. And not a word since. The neighbors eventually stained their fences too, and to be honest, they did a really bad job of coordinating with our color, but I'll leave that to the HOA to address.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.